The merciless sun sets the plain ablaze. The rivers are drying up, and the green pastures are a thing of the past. Water, more than a necessity, has become a privilege. In the midst of this arid ecosystem, where just a sip of this vital liquid is worth its weight in gold, a paradise of fresh water rises before our eyes, providing refuge and restoring life to thousands of thirsty people. This is Kanga Pan, an oasis for wildlife in the heart of a desert savanna plagued by the dry season. Herds of elephants travel for miles to reach this prized destination, where they can quench their thirst and enjoy refreshing baths. Baboons welcome strangers who visit their home, and the hippopotamus goes to the deepest part of the watering hole so as not to lose his privileged position. Birds land in their hundreds upon seeing the revitalizing wetland, unsure if it's real or the oppressive heat playing tricks on their minds. And the antelopes and zebras are quick to join this spring, a vestige of Mother Nature's mercy amidst miles of lifeless savanna. Even the hyenas, inveterate carnivores, are welcome. In such a harsh drought, they renounce their cruelty and prioritize quenching their thirst. Wild boars and buffalo are the last to arrive, joining this paradise on Earth, which stands as the last hope of life for tens of kilometers around. It is simply a spectacle of nature to see so many species gathered in a single place, all driven by the desire to survive. But just as this wetland gives life, in just seconds, it also takes it away. From what seemed like calm drinking water, a savage armored crocodile emerges. A ruthless beast that won't hesitate to devour any unwary who dares to come near for a sip. As if nothing had happened, the only evidence is the blood-stained waters and the voracious reptile's satiated stomach. The surroundings of this holy water tributary are also not exempt from the dangers of the savanna. Appearing like a living nightmare, packs of lions intercept these thirsty travelers who see the cool lagoon as their last hope. After days without the vital liquid, many ungulates end up perishing just meters from the shore at the hands of these wild felines, who take advantage of the need to instill fear through their bites. At night, when the sun gives a break from the stifling heat of the plain, the wild leopard appears among the grasslands, stalking its unfortunate prey from the shadows, seeing in its amber eyes the cover of death itself. The wails of its victims are the only evidence of the terror that has occurred in the darkness. In this oasis, Mother Nature draws perhaps the thinnest of lines between life and death. Located in northern Zimbabwe, within Manapul's National Park, Kanga Pan is a natural depression in the plain that stores significant amounts of water year-round. Although during the rainy season, this natural pond floods with thousands of metric tons of vital liquid. Given the abundance and waste of Mother Nature's resources throughout the savanna, few people are interested in visiting this overflowing wetland. It is when times of austerity brought on by drought arrive that Kanga Pan becomes a mandatory stop on the journey of hundreds of wild species. With not a single drop of water within a 20-kilometer radius, this tributary becomes the dream of thousands of thirsty creatures. Thanks to thousands of liters of water stored from the rainy season's rainfall, as well as groundwater from the Zambezi River, the Kanga Pan is a reliable source of vital water, even when the savanna turns into an arid desert. Given its status as a refuge for thousands of species, the true explosion of wildlife at this watering hole occurs precisely when Mother Nature shows her most hostile side, plunging the rest of the ecosystem into endless thirst. However, some species, going from being simple visitors, have settled in, choosing the Kanga Pan as their welcoming home. Among these are olive baboons, hippos, storks, herons, and of course, thousands of fish that enjoy these endless tributaries year-round. Life is good for all these permanent inhabitants of this oasis. However, It's best to look twice in the water before taking a sip, as it could be your last. While the glorious hippopotamus takes a dip in the distance, the carefree storks prepare to cool off with a splash of water. What they don't know is that what looks like a simple log floating on the surface is a 4-meter-long reptile waiting for the right moment to strike. Lurking without giving the slightest hint of its presence, the savage African crocodile is another of those wild inhabitants who have made Kanga Pan their permanent home. However, unlike its neighbors, this ferocious reptile is anything but welcome. In milliseconds, without even the heron knowing what happened, this ruthless beast leaps with its gigantic jaws open and devours the defenseless bird in one bite. With a jaw boasting over 80 teeth and tremendous strength, there was nothing to avoid becoming part of this colossal killer's diet. As quickly as it appears, it vanishes into the murky water, devouring the remains of its prey in the tranquility of the depths. But, weighing almost a ton, a heron weighing no more than 4 kilos won't even serve as a snack for this hungry carnivore. Capable of devouring up to half its weight in a single meal, the crocodile is determined to keep hunting. So all visitors to this wetland should remain alert to anything moving underwater. Although it will never refuse such an affordable prey as the defenseless heron, the majority of this feared reptile's diet consists of fish. Given its incredible abilities in the water, while mammals use these waterways to survive, the armored crocodile uses them as a means of transport to bring terror to tilapia and catfish, which, until then, had been swimming peacefully. Sometimes this master of the waters doesn't even have to make an effort to hunt the fish that fill these tributaries. Waiting patiently, they often unwittingly enter the reptile's jaws, which only has to do the work of swallowing its prey. While the inhabitants of the plain are affected by the ailments of the first heat waves, the voracious crocodile waits patiently for what, for it, is a time of unprecedented abundance of prey. One of the first species to visit Kanga Pan in search of a sip of life is the thirsty wildebeest, who, with a daily quota of up to 12 liters of the vital liquid, will literally do anything to quench their thirst, even if it means walking straight into the trap of an insatiable carnivore. As soon as they arrive from an exhausting march across the parched plain, the mammals waste no time, heading straight for that longed-for sip. Although these horned creatures are usually extremely cautious when approaching wetlands, well aware of the dangers they hold, after several days with nothing but the memory of water, they throw all caution to the winds, and in a single instant, that joy turns to horror. The savage crocodile has delivered its verdict, emerging from the water, dragging one of the ungulates with it. Although the wildebeest fights with all its might, there's nothing it can do against this reptile, up to twice its weight. As soon as it captures the prey with its ferocious bite, it immediately carries it to the depths, where the same water that was supposed to give it life does the rest of the work, drowning the prey. With the giant wildebeest now in its prime, the carnivore devotes itself to enjoying such a colossal prey. Using its prodigious bite, the crocodile tears large chunks of the wildebeest's tender flesh and swallows them whole, since its jaws don't allow it to chew. Even though it's raw, the truth is that for the rest of the ungulates, having this feared hunter's stomach full is a relief, as it allows them to enjoy the wetland without the worry of being devoured by the reptile, at least for a while, until it goes hunting again and claims another victim. But not all thirsty visitors who come to Kanga Pan are within striking distance of the bloodthirsty Nile crocodile's bite. As much terror as its jaws instill in wildebeest, herons, antelopes, and fish, with the arrival of the gigantic African elephants, the reptile is cunning and knows just when it's time for an honorable retreat. Weighing up to 10 tons, these beasts, rather than mammals, resemble enormous living mountains. During the dry season, this watering hole is one of the favorite destinations for these giants, as the abundance of water is more than guaranteed. With such a reputation, the oasis can host up to several herds of dozens of individuals. In addition to being the largest land animal on the planet, in this dry savanna, elephants hold the unenviable position of being one of the species that require the most water to survive. With an adult consuming up to 200 liters a day, only a wetland the size of Kanga Pan could meet such a demand. Upon reaching the spring, just like the wildebeest, these giants waste no time and go straight to enjoy the vital liquid. After days of nothing but the memory of what was once a refreshing sip, these pachyderms aren't planning on drinking too little. Although they appear to use their trunks to drink directly from the pond, they actually suck in the water for a moment, then drain it directly into their mouths. With a trunk capacity of up to 9 liters, these gentle tuskers will repeat this process several times until they are finally satisfied. Curiously, in addition to being one of the species that requires the greatest amounts of water, African elephants are also among those that waste the most of this coveted liquid. After a long journey to reach this oasis, these mammals escape the oppressive heat of the plain by taking a refreshing bath. Some choose to submerge themselves in the deepest parts of the pond, while others prefer to use their trunks as a shower over their enormous bodies. These baths, in addition to helping them regulate their temperature, contribute to the elimination of parasites on their skin and provide protection from the sun. Of course, this time for personal hygiene can also be transformed into a moment of leisure, where, especially the youngest, they have fun playing in the water, and why not? Sometimes a mud bath never hurts anyone. Although the presence of elephants is welcomed by most species in this rich ecosystem, perhaps not everyone is so happy about their arrival. Of course, for crocodiles, the arrival of these giant beasts on the shore means they must give up hunting and seek refuge in the deeper parts of the wetland. Even daring to challenge one of these giants can mean having their spine snapped in half by one of the mammal's giant paws. Similarly, those fearsome ambushes carried out by reptiles against small mammals, in the case of elephants, can result in a tusk up to 3 meters long, piercing their abdomen. With the crocodiles away from the shore, hippos are another of the kangaroo pan's resident species that aren't too pleased with their new tenants. Given their larger size, elephants tend to push the hippos out of their wetland habitat. To avoid problems, these aquatic herbivores prefer to obey without kicking, yielding the more comfortable spaces to the gray giants. In addition to providing a nearly unlimited supply of water to these thirsty travelers, the vegetation surrounding the oasis manages to remain relatively green, even during the dry season, allowing the elephants to enjoy grazing and browsing in the vicinity of the watering hole. When food availability is seemingly at critical levels, these adept herbivores, demonstrating their adaptability, dig with their tusks and trunks in the arid earth in search of roots, tubers, and other valuable snacks in times of scarcity. Mammals such as antelopes, zebras, wildebeests, and baboons are most pleased with the arrival of the plentiful elephants, as these giants serve as protection at the watering hole against attacks by voracious predators. As soon as a wild lion appears near the spring looking for a sip of water, or perhaps a helpless prey, while most of the wild inhabitants of this oasis flee in terror, the elephants do not even flinch and look these carnivorous beasts directly into their death-filled eyes. While they can occasionally tolerate an unwelcome visit from the odd feline, as long as it doesn't get in their way, a prolonged stay can heighten the tension in the air. And these gentle giants skip the polite part and charge at the invaders with their massive bodies. Just a touch with one of its sharp fangs can mean almost immediate death, even for an adult lion. If there is a cub involved, the best thing for the felines is not to even approach for that refreshing drink of water, because the self-sacrificing mother will not allow these beasts to approach her defenseless offspring, and will resort to violence as soon as she spots a possible threat. With the lions fleeing, thanks to the elephants' efficient work as pond guardians, the wild inhabitants emerge from their hiding places and return to enjoy the refreshing waters. Among them, chakma baboons descend from the treetops and dive into the invigorating tributary. Standing over 110 centimeters tall and weighing up to 45 kilograms, chakma baboons are one of the largest monkey species. These wild inhabitants of Kanga Pan are among the permanent residents of the pond who have welcomed thirsty travelers for millennia. With fur ranging in shades of dark brown to gray, and a distinctive long downward-sloping face, these monkeys are virtually unmistakable, even in the rich ecosystem of this busy spring. Living in a small troop of just a few dozen individuals, during each dry season these primates see how the banks of what until a few weeks ago was their private pond become a refuge for hundreds of species to escape the oppressive drought. While this could lead to competition for resources, the truth is that baboons welcome outsiders without any resistance, as long as they limit themselves to enjoying the water and not the juicy meat of one of their fellow baboons. The group, although not very numerous, includes a dominant male, some females, and of course, the tender young, who view every visitor who approaches the watering hole with great awe. Having a nearly endless source of water in the comfort of their home, the chakma baboons are eager to enjoy this privileged location. Gathering together in shallow waters, these primates take refreshing sips and groom each other to protect themselves from the high temperatures. This troop behavior often strengthens the bonds between group members for better coexistence. Having quenched their thirst, the monkeys now turn to calming the rumbling in their stomachs. One of the secrets to the chakma baboons' millennia-long survival in this ecosystem is their ability to adapt their diet. These primates can feed on basically anything they see. As perfect omnivores, their diet is vast, consisting of fruits, seeds, grasses, flowers, bulbs, insects, spiders, worms, rodents, and even small antelopes. For the baboon, life is simple. If Mother Nature puts something in his path, he will devour it. Thanks to its unpretentious palate, this versatile mammal can easily survive the days when the Kanga Pan is not at its best. In a demonstration of their close social relationships, these herbivores often go out all together to search for food. Using their trained sense of smell, as well as their keen eyesight, they find no seed or tuber that escapes their appetite. Rummaging through the soil, lifting stones, and digging in the earth, these professional foragers will find it no matter how small the snack. It's important that the baboons remain alert during these foraging trips, as the idea is to find something to eat without being eaten. Since they tend to be cautious when approaching water, and only hang around the shallowest areas of the shore, the armored crocodiles are not among the troop's main concerns. The greatest killer of these primates appears among the dense grasslands, unseen. Hidden, without giving the slightest hint of its intentions, the voracious leopard is another of those predators that turn this oasis of life into a wetland of death. Upon seeing anything at least resembling this untamed carnivore, the group flees in terror, heading straight for the relative safety of the treetops. Although the first option upon seeing this feline is always to flee, sometimes the pack abandons all the hospitality that characterizes them as guests of the wetland and unleashes their wild instinct to confront this cruel beast. While young and female leopards are unable to stand up to such a relentless foe as the leopard, the feline finds a match for itself in the large, dominant male. This primate, with its sharp canines, is capable of inflicting significant wounds on the predator, so this insatiable carnivore will always avoid crossing paths with the alpha. But threats to chacma baboons don't always come from ruthless predators. Sometimes, the greatest threat to these primates' calm lifestyle comes from within the troop itself. From an ambitious male who wants to make a statement and establish himself as the new alpha. When this wild coup attempt occurs, the dominant male must come forward to defend what is his. Before engaging in physical combat, the reigning alpha emits growls and squeals as a kind of warning of the ferocity the challenger is about to witness. To further intimidate, both males display their sharp teeth and dangerous canines just before lunging at their opponent's bulk. In these battles, shoves, blows, and bites are immediate, and within minutes, one of the males will throw in the towel and accept his position as a subordinate. If the already dominant alpha male wins, the troop can rest easy knowing the regime continues. However, when a new male emerges as alpha, the transition is often anything but smooth. To ensure the troop's females come into heat, the newly ascended leader is willing to show his fiercest side by getting rid of the former alpha's offspring. This is undoubtedly one of the cruelest acts the Kanga Pan can display in the wild, yet it is necessary to maintain the troop's genetic diversity. Given the baboon's sophisticated foraging abilities, herbivores often join them on these outings, rummaging through the vegetation, and if they're lucky, they might enjoy a leaf or two, or perhaps some fruit that the monkeys discard. For impalas, this is a clever way to find food without much effort. Like hundreds of other wild species, these medium-sized antelopes see this watering hole as their last chance of survival. When the merciless drought has eliminated all traces of water from the savanna, after millennia of taking refuge in the Kanga Pan, these mammals know exactly what to do to avoid succumbing to the heat and overwhelming thirst. Numbering in the hundreds, herds of these spindly ungulates clog the wetland's edge, all thirsty and eager to quench their thirst. With a glossy reddish-brown coat, and in the case of males, horns over 90 centimeters long, impalas are one of those species that fill this landscape with life, benefiting from the privileges of the ecosystem. During the dry season, when food becomes scarce even in the bountiful Kanga Pan, impalas often follow other mammals on their hunts, so to speak, for grasses, fruits, and seeds. In addition to begging for scraps from baboons, these agile ungulates often stay close to elephant herds, waiting for the latter to shake large trees with their trunks, causing all those fruits and leaves to fall to the ground, where, with their agile dexterity, they can snatch up a snack or two. While during times of abundance on the savanna, these ungulates prefer to eat the freshest leaves and grasses for their greater nutritional value. When austerity sets in, they do not hesitate to devour whatever the Creator places in their path. Although they may not be exactly happy about it, impalas occupy a crucial place in the food chain, serving as prey for countless predators. During their foraging journeys, these herbivores can't make the grave mistake of becoming complacent. In just seconds, what at first glance seems like a peaceful and serene grassland can turn into a ferocious lioness leaping forward with her powerful bite straight for your neck. Given the small size of these antelopes compared to other herbivores such as wildebeest, zebras, or buffalo, they are easily available prey for crocodiles. When the numerous herds of these less robust ungulates crowd the banks of the spring, snagging a meal is as easy for the reptile as simply opening its mouth. Hyenas, notorious scavengers, will literally kill for a far from insignificant prey weighing up to 70 kilograms. Clans of these fearsome carnivores can chase the ungulates for miles into the deep savanna, where exhaustion causes them to collapse and eventually succumb to a disastrous death. Although Mother Nature is merciless in targeting impalas with every predator in this hostile ecosystem, thousands of years of evolution have equipped these antelopes with incredible abilities to escape the bite of their tormentors. Capable of running at up to 80 kilometers per hour, impalas will sprint across the plains as soon as they spot a predator nearby. While they can't maintain this speed for long distances, this sprint leaves most carnivores behind. Agility is another skill these herbivores employ to escape predators. While running at full speed for their lives, impalas can leap up to 3 meters high and 9 meters long. Of course, nothing protects them more than living in large herds. Since 50 eyes see better than a pair, these mammals tend not to stray too far from each other and remain constantly alert. In fact, while other ungulates like wildebeest and buffalo sink into the night in a peaceful rest, these lighter herbivores don't have that luxury, as they might never see the light of a new dawn. Impalas usually sleep no more than 3 hours a day, and in very short periods of time that don't exceed 10 minutes. All this is a survival measure, allowing them to bear the burden Mother Nature has placed on them. With an advanced alarm system, these prodigious runners maintain a relatively secure perimeter around the herd. Upon spotting a potential threat, they emit a loud snort that alerts the entire group, a clear starting signal. In just seconds, the herd scatters in all directions, with antelopes leaping and turning sharply as they run to confuse predators. Although the swift ungulates often leave the carnivores with empty stomachs, in certain ambushes there is nothing they can do, and the predators assert their place in the food chain, devouring the unfortunate impalas. In addition to swift ungulates, ferocious reptiles and vicious felines, the Kanga Pan waterhole also provides refuge for countless birds. Among these, guinea fowl are those visitors that are never missing when the dry season wipes out any possibility of survival in the savanna. Measuring no more than 50 centimeters in height and weighing up to 4 kilograms, the most striking feature of these guinea fowls, also known as painted hens, is their striking blue head, with a horny protuberance on top that resembles a helmet. Their fur is equally striking, with shades of gray and black, and some small white specks, giving them the appearance of a starry sky. Like impalas, these birds tend to live in large groups, forming large flocks that roam the plains in search of food. With the arrival of the dry season, and the transformation of what was once a pleasant habitat into an arid ecosystem, common guinea fowl do not hesitate to seek a better life in the welcoming Kanga Pan. Since their diet is usually quite dry, these birds must constantly ingest water, and with the sun causing oppressive heat, the need for this vital liquid is imminent. Upon arriving at the watering hole, the chickens are more than welcome because, unlike the feared felines, they are completely harmless to baboons, impalas, and not to mention the giant hippos. In fact, contrary to being a nuisance to the rest of the thirsty visitors, guinea fowl are more than welcome by species such as wildebeest, buffalo, antelope, and all those affected by tick infestations. Because, in this agglomeration of mammals, where insects want to feast, these birds dedicate themselves to carrying out the work of exterminators, using their trained beaks to eliminate these parasites one at a time, and at the same time, take away an exquisite snack. In addition to enjoying the small details of savanna life in the form of a juicy tick, guinea fowl, as true omnivores, have an extraordinarily varied diet. Their menu includes seeds, fruits, snails, worms, larvae, and practically anything they encounter on their long journeys across the plains. Although they have the abundant water of the Kanga Pan just steps away, unlike elephants, these sensible birds are not fond of wasting this vital liquid. Instead of taking a refreshing dip in the spring, they prefer to take sand baths to keep their plumage free of parasites and bacteria. In these baths, they roll in dry earth or dust to remove excess oil and any unwanted visitors from their plumage. As they shake and fill their wings with earth, they aerate them, helping them maintain a comfortable temperature in the midst of this scorching drought. Despite being able to spread their wings and take off in short flight, common guinea fowl are best known for their incredible abilities on the ground, being agile and able to travel very long distances. After a long day of killing every insect, devouring every seed and larva in their path, and with the sun giving them a momentary respite from the stifling heat, it's time for these birds to sleep. Since sleeping on the ground is not a good idea when you're a harmless guinea fowl, they'll use their flying skills to reach the highest branches of the trees surrounding the wetland to find shelter. Here, they'll be relatively safe from the ferocious predators that make their nightly raids, waiting to hunt unsuspecting prey under the cover of darkness. With the sun rising again over the horizon, the guinea fowl are the first to wake up, preparing for what will be a long day roaming the savanna, of course, all without straying too far from this precious wetland. While they are not capable of emitting calls that wake up all their neighbors like domestic chickens, they can produce sounds such as squawks and squawks that contrast with the silence of dawn in Kanga Pan. In addition to their good work controlling insect pests around the watering hole, these birds perform a function perhaps even more appreciated by the other thirsty refugees that crowd the wetland's shores. Through their vocalizations, they warn of the presence of predators, thereby sounding the alarm for baboons, impalas, wildebeest, and other wild inhabitants to set off in a race, literally for life or death. Thanks to their enviable field of vision of nearly 360 degrees and prodigious long-range vision, common guinea fowl can perceive even the slightest movement within their perimeter, allowing them to escape the dangers lurking within this oasis. Despite always remaining alert, predators are sometimes more skillful and manage to get hold of a juicy hen weighing up to 4 kilograms. Although these birds face countless threats due to their lack of ferocity, one of their main predators is the feared African wild dogs. With striking fur in shades of brown, black, and white, with a pattern unique to each individual, and large, round ears, the wild dogs, also known as African wild dogs, are one of the species that perfectly showcase the wetland's biodiversity during these hot days. Invading the watering hole from several points, when packs of these canines stalk the Kanga Pan, they cause terror among the herbivores, and many times a guinea fowl ends up becoming the unfortunate victim and the feast for these ferocious hunters. Given the wild dog's high hunting success rate of up to 90%, they rarely end up leaving the wetlands on an empty stomach. In fact, these hardened carnivores are much more efficient than species as ferocious as hyenas and even the feared lions. Although they will never turn down small prey like a guinea fowl, given their unmatched hunting skills and pack size, wild dogs often hunt down prey as large as impala, wildebeest, or zebra. Not particularly notable for their size, weighing only up to 30 kilograms, and not exactly among the most ferocious species in the ecosystem, wild dogs use strategies other than ambushes to bring food back to their pack. As specialists in hunting impala, these canines, rather than attacking their fastest prey by surprise, prefer to stalk them for long distances until the prey collapses from exhaustion. Using a relay strategy, each canine pursues the ungulate for a distance until another carnivore takes its place. In an endurance race that can last several minutes, the fastest but least resilient impala always gives up without even being able to get up, and the herd quickly reaps the rewards of their clever plan. Unlike most social carnivores, where the hierarchy dictates that the dominant members eat first, in the world of wild dogs, the pups are given the honor of taking the first bites of the prey. Having calmed their stomach rumblings, the pack looks for a place to take refuge from the harsh savanna sun. Usually, a burrow abandoned by another animal or an area of dense vegetation is the ideal place for the dogs to rest. The social behavior of wild dogs is one of the most impressive in the entire wild kingdom. In contrast to the kings of the savanna and the hospitable baboons, where an alpha male stands as the lord and master of the group, in these dogs' social structure, a breeding pair, often made up of the oldest and strongest individuals, holds the reins of the group. In these packs, the bonds between each member are truly close, to the point of being considered more like a family. To strengthen these bonds, vocalizations in the form of chirps, barks, and howls are essential, both while hunting and when socializing. One of the unique behaviors of African wild dogs occurs when the pack prepares for a hunt. Here, the dogs gather and hold a sort of vote, in which they emit a peculiar sneeze to signal their approval. In these pre-hunting consensuses, the dominant pair's vote carries greater weight, setting democracy aside, and a majority is not required to pursue their next prey. During the dry season, several herds may come looking for a sip of refreshing water, as well as, why not, a substantial prey from this oasis of life and death. As this species is not very territorial, encounters between different groups can occur without any conflict. A single pack of approximately 15 individuals can dominate large areas of savanna, up to 200 square kilometers, traveling long distances each day in search of prey. However, as a result of the bloody drought, the dogs are reluctant to venture far from the wetland, and the unwelcome visits from the carnivores are becoming more frequent. Once again, differentiating themselves from the rest of the social carnivores, while lions and hyenas see darkness as their perfect opportunity to hunt, wild dogs, with nothing to hide, prefer daylight to instill terror in their weary prey, who after a long run, throw in the towel and allow themselves to be wrapped in the warm coat of death. Another notable social behavior is that, again in contrast to the kings of the savanna, where males are expelled from the group upon reaching sexual maturity, in the atypical social life of wild dogs, the females are the ones forced to seek new horizons. During the technical stops these dogs make along the Kanga Pan, where they are never welcome, they are not always successful in achieving their goal of cooling off and devouring the occasional mammal along the way. Occasionally, the wild dogs arrive when the African elephants are taking a relaxing mud bath, and these gigantic beasts will not tolerate any carnivore, no matter how harmless they may be, approaching the wetland. So instead of getting a drink, the pack found themselves with a beast weighing up to 10,000 kilograms on their tail. In addition to the enormous African elephants, another species that has landed in Kanga Pan and will not tolerate the wild dog's visit are gigantic bulls weighing up to a ton. African buffaloes leverage their large size and fearsome strength to ward off many predators from these life-giving waters. With gigantic horns up to 1.5 meters long, large hooves crowning powerful legs, and fur as dark as darkness, you don't have to think too hard to understand why these ungulates are known as the Black Death. The vast majority of savanna predators, no matter how ferocious, will think twice before getting in the way of a large African buffalo, as the idea of having a massive bull stalking them doesn't sound very provocative. Far from spending their days with the hostile temperament they display when threatened, these disproportionate beasts tend to lead a quiet, elusive life, devouring the fresh grasses provided by the torrential downpours of the rainy season. Despite not being migratory animals, when austerity knocks, these quintessential survivors are not willing to sit idly by as drought ravages what was once a bountiful biome. With the marked lack of resources expressed in dry grasslands and lagoons that have become mere puddles, the buffaloes set out for that place where they know they will be able to quench their thirst throughout the dry season. Just like elephants, the wild species of the kangaroo pan welcome the giant ungulates with open arms, knowing that their presence will make predators think twice about invading their privileged biome. After their long-awaited arrival at the spring, these great horned beasts, without hesitation, go straight to enjoy the most abundant resource of this contrasting corner of the savanna. Requiring up to 45 liters of the vital liquid per day, staying at this watering hole is the only way for these thirsty bulls to survive. Similar to the equally colossal African elephants, buffaloes don't limit themselves to just taking what they need from this oasis in the earth, but they also dare to indulge in well-deserved refreshments after walking for miles in the middle of a hostile savanna. Despite their vast size, these horned crocodiles must be careful where they step when they dive into the choppy waters, as crocodiles will not hesitate to venture out on the journey to hunt such promising prey. Although the reptile's ferocity is well known to everyone around the tributary, when threatened by a large armored crocodile, this heavy bovine demonstrates why it's not a good idea to mess with a giant bull. Although it's a battle of power to power, using its large horns as weapons, the mammal is capable of ramming the reptile and sending it flying back to where it came from with a single blow. Likewise, in some situations, the story doesn't end happily for the ungulate, and it ends up in the stomach of the ferocious beast of the water. Especially when it comes to sick specimens or young, the crocodile usually ends up emerging as the victor in these duels, devouring kilos and kilos of their juicy flesh. However, just as the flesh of a young calf can be a delicacy for a voracious crocodile, it can also become the reptile's last meal. If any wild species knows the true meaning of revenge, it's the African buffalo. Often, when a member of the herd has succumbed to the bite of a voracious predator, the largest bulls in the group take this ruthless act personally, and, leaving all notion of forgiveness behind, they charge directly with their large horns to charge those who, until seconds ago, were executioners. Although individuals that roam alone on the plains may be subject to attacks from lions and hyenas, the numerous herds of these ungulates are almost untouchable by any carnivore, as they are accustomed to defending each other from potential threats. When, instead of the dreaded crocodile, it's hyenas, who, in a delusion of grandeur, dare to intrude on herds full of mighty bulls, the famous scavengers are the ones who win these brave horned beasts over as a reward for their boundless ambition. While the much less robust impalas, upon seeing a predator approaching, sound the alarm and begin a rapid escape, the bellows and snorts of African buffaloes are the signal to enter combat mode when a member of the herd is threatened. These beasts perfectly follow the principle: if you mess with one, you mess with them all. The group life of these horned animals is perhaps, overshadowing even their fearsome horns and large hooves, their greatest asset for survival in an ecosystem where other ungulates are much more accessible prey. When the sun begins to set in the Kanga Pan, these gregarious herbivores retreat to the safety of their herds to rest in the starry night. While members of larger herds drift off into sleep thanks to the protection of the group, less fortunate solitary males wander through this dangerous biome, mistakenly thinking that their dark fur hides them in the darkness. Only the moon will witness the bestiality that is about to occur. In the deep night, only a few eyes can be seen. What is certain, according to the screams and roars, is that the African buffalo, roaming the wetland in supposed solitude, was not alone. The arrival of dawn reveals the remains of the atrocity that occurred. Only half-eaten remains remain as proof of the barbarity suffered by the ungulate at the hands of a savage feline. While by day a formidable bull may resist the ruthless intentions of the hungry lioness, the night belongs to this voracious killer, and the crime scene proves no wrong. Hiding among the thick vegetation and stalking terrified herbivores mainly at dusk, it is practically impossible to escape the lethal bite of the savanna's royalty. Although they do not usually wander around the wetland during the rainy season, news of the large gathering of wildlife on the banks of the Kanga Pan has reached their ears, and dozens of ferocious lions, who live mainly around the Zambezi River, do not hesitate to show up in a place where their presence is clearly not welcome. Almost any thirsty stranger who comes to the watering hole can easily become prey for these apex predators. From tiny guinea fowl to formidable African buffalo, almost no one can escape the appetite of these gigantic and anything but noble cats. Although they can supplement their hydration needs by devouring large ungulates, with the horrific drought that has hit the savanna, even these feared killers occasionally come close to drinking from the watering hole. Despite being aware that these waters harbor giant reptiles up to 4 meters long, their position as lords and masters of the savanna means they drink without hesitation. In shallow waters, even wild Nile crocodiles can find themselves in trouble in hand-to-hand combat with a lion weighing nearly 200 kilograms. While the almighty feline enjoys a refreshing sip, the rest of the thirsty species that have arrived at Kanga Pan are not having such a good time. The baboons, aware of the significance of the feline's presence, take refuge high in the trees. The impalas and zebras have preferred to disperse into the arid plain, at least for a while, until the predator leaves this oasis alone, while birds like the jabiras have preferred to seek refuge in the safety of the skies. Those who haven't even flinched at the arrival of the cruel predator are the giant African elephants, who know perfectly well that their abysmal size places them beyond the bite range of these felines. However, little by little, tensions rise in the air, and with the appearance of vultures in the sky, a clear premonition of death, the enormous pachyderms decide that enough is enough, and the predator's time enjoying the wetland has come to an end. In the blink of an eye, these enormous living mountains pounce with their long fangs on the feline, who, in a cruel reality check, discovers that not everyone on the savanna will be subdued by its bite. The lion, with no strategy to speak of, decides to abandon the spring, of course, always with the latent threat of returning. With the escape of the feline, wildlife in the Kanga Pan is gradually returning to its natural state, with thirsty herbivores returning to the banks of the tributary. Amid the chaos caused by the lion's intrusion, some hyenas take advantage of the situation to capture a clueless zebra that strayed from its pack. While these equines can protect themselves from carnivores under the protection of the group, alone they are easy prey for the numerous hyena clans. Although the hyenas have done the hard work of hunting down their prey, they won't get to enjoy the juicy meat of the ungulate, because, in what seems like the world is upside down, a nearby pack of lions comes to take over the hunt for these ferocious carnivores. Although hyenas have a well-known reputation as scavengers, and are responsible for prey thefts on the plains, The truth is that in their relationship with the kings of the savannah, they are the ones most affected by these criminal acts of nature. Given their larger size and ferocity, when a pack of felines lives near a clan of hyenas, they are quick to show up at mealtime and take what is rightfully theirs. With just one male capable of defeating up to 6 hyenas in hand-to-hand combat at the same time, these mammals prefer to let him go and watch the felines enjoy his efforts. After a hearty meal, with the entire pride full, these big cats settle down to rest under a leafy tree to protect themselves from the scorching sun. Resting up to 20 hours a day, one of the lion's favorite activities is undoubtedly lying down in a comfortable pasture, and, in the case of the males, feeling the breeze ruffle their manes. Although these hardened carnivores can endure long periods of starvation in difficult times, with hundreds of prey collapsing the wetland banks, the lions don't have to go hungry. This time the unfortunate prey will not be a colossal African buffalo or a striped zebra, but a carefree wildebeest that is peacefully grazing, completely unaware that it is in its last minutes of life. Wildebeest play a crucial role in sustaining large lion prides, as they are sizable prey and relatively easy for these ruthless strategists to hunt. When a lion encounters a solitary ungulate, it is as if a meal has been handed to them on a silver platter. Silently circling their prey from various angles, the herbivore realizes it has fallen into an ambush, but it is too late, and the felines can almost taste the meat. Against up to a dozen ferocious lionesses, there is nothing this cuckold can do but pray for a quick death. After hunting down the ungulate, the lions are pleasantly surprised to find that the elephant herds have abandoned the wetland to its fate. Although the Kanga Pan has a reputation as an oasis of endless water, everything comes to an end. After months of intense heat and serving as a tributary to quench the thirst of thousands of wild species, the reservoir has reached dangerously low levels. Although the felines, with the absence of the large elephants, feel they have a free hand to establish themselves at the watering hole and impose their reign of terror, the diminished waters of the wetland still harbor giants who will not hesitate to defend their territory from any predator seeking to take over their ecosystem. Tired of watching lions chase away baboons, zebras, impalas, and any herbivore that comes close to the shore for a refreshing drink, a massive hippopotamus weighing over 4 tons charges out of the water and marches straight toward the surprised lions. With a bite up to 3 times stronger than that of felines, a gigantic hippopotamus is capable of decimating one of these carnivores in just seconds, either by attacking them with its tusks, which are more than 60 centimeters long, or by trampling them with its vast bulk. Seeing that Kanga Pan has a new protector, the lions choose to take refuge again on the plain, where they can spread their terror far from the fearsome pachyderm. The brave hippopotamus, for his part, will return to what is still a welcoming wetland to enjoy the refreshing water. In contrast to its display of ferocity in driving the lions out of the watering hole, this temperamental giant rarely emerges from its comfortable perch in the wetland during the day. Often submerged with only its eyes and nostrils visible, these enormous mammals are protecting themselves from the unbearable heat caused by the drought. Although the Kanga Pan wetland is past its prime, experiencing the height of the heat wave, as a permanent resident, the hippopotamus isn't planning on migrating anywhere else. This is its home, and if it must, it will perish with it. Despite spending much of its time submerged in the water, this semi-aquatic beast surprisingly has questionable swimming skills. The vast majority of its time in the tributary, it spends its time walking or jumping, resting on the ground. On those hot days when it lies exhausted and wants to rest, this pachyderm uses its incredible ability to sleep in the water without fear of drowning. Thanks to an instinctive reflex, the animal emerges to the surface without ever leaving its deep rest. Unlike other wild species that see the Kanga Pan as a temporary home to take refuge from the scorching drought, this ungulate will not abandon its benevolent biome when the rainy season returns. In addition to sheltering themselves from the sweltering heat of being submerged in the cool wetland, these long baths are a survival measure to protect their delicate skin from the sun's rays. Although this thick layer of over 15 centimeters is impervious even to the cruel bite of lions, the relentless sun can cause severe burns. In addition to their prolonged immersion, the pachyderm often applies a generous layer of mud, which serves as additional protection against the sun's rays. Although they lack sweat glands, these giants secrete a reddish substance colloquially called blood sweat, which also acts as a natural sunscreen. With the sun, the hippopotamus's sworn enemy, slowly sinking below the horizon, this herbivorous night owl decides to come out and feed on any grass that crosses its path. Despite instilling terror even in voracious lions, this mammal has no interest in meat and instead prefers to devour up to 50 kilograms of nutritious grasses each night. These moonlit walks are anything but short, as the herbivore travels up to 8 kilometers into the savanna in search of every last clump of grass to meet its demanding food quota. This process often takes up to 5 hours a day. By religiously repeating this routine every day, given its enormous size, it even creates paths through the vegetation, which can serve as trails for other species, allowing them to find the oasis more easily, something that can literally save their lives. In addition to creating these kind of highways to the wetland, hippos play a crucial role in providing minerals to the waters of the Kanga Pan, as all the food they consume, once digested, must go somewhere. Defecating up to more than 100 kilograms in a single sitting, all the minerals in their feces are spread throughout the water, becoming part of the diet of these thirsty wild species. Although the hippopotamus's nocturnal habits might seem like a strategy to avoid encountering the predators that stalk the wetland surroundings, the truth is that this colossal beast has proven it has no fear of any voracious carnivore who wants to challenge it. Not one to play games, a single bite can put an end to any altercation with lions, hyenas, or wild dogs. Even in the water, where the crocodiles feel they own the watering hole, the largest males face the reptiles without a second thought, in a battle of giants for dominance of the waters of the Kanga Pan. Although nothing is set in stone in these duels, most of the time, the furious pachyderm ends up teaching the reptile a lesson it will never forget, biting its armored body and shaking it violently from side to side. The serious injuries inflicted by the hippopotamus on the dangerous reptile are excellent news for thirsty ungulates like the kudu. Weighing up to 300 kilograms and sporting an imposing appearance with a narrow body, long legs, and beautiful reddish-brown fur, these antelopes are one of the most majestic creatures to visit the bountiful Kanga Pan ecosystem during the hot and already prolonged dry season. While their imposing size makes them a marvel of nature, in the case of males, a long, spiral, V-shaped antler measuring up to 1.5 meters steals the show. With the African crocodile momentarily out of action after its encounter with the ferocious hippopotamus, the kudu can now enjoy the waters of this blessed tributary without hesitation. Although they have an extraordinary ability to obtain water from their diet of leaves, shoots, and fruits, no mammal on the savanna would refuse to take a sip from this spring of life, and these antelopes will be no exception. While females and young live in herds of up to dozens, males choose a solitary life, only breaking from their hermit-like routine when the breeding season arrives. But, with the austere conditions on the plain, the last thing this kudu is thinking about is expanding his family. With leaves and grasses increasingly scarce, this herbivore, in a show of its desire to survive, scours every inch of the ground in search of shoots, tubers, or roots. In lean times, any snack, no matter how small, feels like manna from heaven. Although very happy not to have to worry, at least for a while, about attacks from the wild crocodile, the kudu knows perfectly well that in this demanding ecosystem, being a peaceful herbivore weighing up to 300 kilograms is like having a target on its head. To avoid becoming a tasty meal for predators visiting the Kanga Pan, Mother Nature has gifted them with unparalleled camouflage skills. While concealing a large ungulate weighing almost half a ton is a difficult task, thanks to its brown and gray fur striped with white, this antelope can go completely unnoticed from a distance. Often, as a survival measure, when they spot a predator nearby, rather than making a quick escape, they choose to remain motionless and let their camouflage do the work. Occasionally, although reckless, this stealth-based strategy can work. Using their keen sense of sight, as well as trained hearing, if predators want to take the kudu by surprise, they will have to put in the effort. When these herbivores realize they're discovered, they don't hesitate to escape at full speed across the rugged wetland floor. To do so, they're capable of impressive leaps of over 2 meters in height and can run at up to 96 kilometers per hour in short distances. While solitary males must remain alert to protect themselves, herds containing females and calves often emit a barking sound when they sense a potential threat. With this warning, the antelopes will leave no trace of their presence, fleeing in a matter of seconds. In addition to this alarm system, these intelligent herbivores have a wide repertoire of vocalizations with which they communicate with their peers. Through grunts, clucks, and buzzes, they maintain close contact with other nearby antelopes, whether they are members of their herd or a solitary traveler. Although the kudu antelope proves to be a true example of a wild survivor, sometimes even its keen eyesight fails to predict the ambush it is about to fall into. Despite not seeing any potential threats for miles around, what appears to be a peaceful grassland is anything but, and out of it emerges a wild 90-kilogram leopard, ready to hunt down prey up to 3 times its size. Physical disadvantage aside, the leopard is the clear favorite to emerge victorious in this fight. With a powerful bite that strikes terror across the savanna and a set of sharp, retractable claws, it's only a matter of time before this feline latches onto the kudu's neck and ends up suffocating it by crushing its windpipe. With such a voluptuous prey in its possession, the leopard must not hesitate, and thanks to the large number of trees in the vicinity of the Kanga Pan, it manages to take the fruit of its hunt directly to the high branches, where, no matter how hard they try, neither hyenas nor lions will be able to steal the carcass of an impala that will serve as food for up to more than a week. Not living in packs or as fast as its close relative, the cheetah, this feline typically stalks its prey, leaping directly at it. Since hunting alone can result in even the smallest mistake, this voracious killer can spend hours watching its unlucky victim, waiting for the right moment to strike. Since it obtains almost all of its water requirements from its juicy prey, the abundance of vital liquid is not usually the reason why this giant cat visits the Kanga Pan. As with the lions, news of an almost infinite amount of prey in this oasis has reached this feline's ears, and it will not stray far from the watering hole when it witnesses with its own eyes hundreds of candidates for part of its diet, in the form of impala, wildebeest, zebra, and kudu. Although on occasion, this carnivore, ignoring all sense of decency, may appear in broad daylight in the middle of a watering hole and hunt down its prey. The truth is that this cat's favorite time to hunt is when darkness covers the savanna, and its potential prey feel terror on their necks at not knowing where the hunter is. Under the cover of night, the feline has carte blanche to commit all its despicable acts, bringing an untimely end to any defenseless herbivore that crosses its path. While when lions attack the wetland, baboons feel safe in the treetops. When a leopard appears to claim one of these primates' lives, even staying off the ground is no guarantee of survival. Being a prodigious tree climber, you never know when a ruthless feline might dare to go and find his dinner high above, causing chaos among the Chakma baboon troop. During nighttime attacks in the wetland, the primates hear firsthand the suffering this predator can inflict on its victims. Despite not being able to roar, this felid emits vocalizations such as grunts and snorts during its hunt, sounds that remain etched in the minds of both its dying prey and those who listen nearby, helpless. Despite feeling all-powerful after displaying all its ferocity under the cover of night, the leopard is not immune to falling victim to the fury of the large herbivores tasked with protecting the Kanga Pan. African buffalo, hippopotamuses, and elephants alike cannot tolerate a feline terrorizing their habitat mates, and if they see an opportunity to charge at this ruthless predator, they will seize it. In the middle of the hot savanna, it seems, revenge can be a dish best served cold. As the days pass, and the reservoir reaches a critical water level, tensions among the thirsty animals reach their peak, and a fight for scarce resources rages in every corner. However, just as Mother Nature allows all the calamities that occur during the dry season, in a show of mercy, the sky in the distance announces a storm. And as if by a miracle, giant clouds unleash vast quantities of the vital liquid over the entire plain. With the arrival of the rains, all those thirsty foreigners who took refuge in Kanga Pan head off to other destinations, where they can enjoy the gifts the rains have brought. Of course, baboons, hippos, and other permanent residents of this privileged biome would never leave their home. Although the rainy season has just begun, the Kanga Pan River has already begun preparing for the upcoming dry season. Over the next few months, this tributary will store thousands of tons of vital liquid in preparation for all the species that will see their last chance of survival in the refreshing waters of this reservoir. Despite a fragile balance between rainfall and drought governing life in this delicate biome, the effects of climate change have not been long in coming, even in such a resilient ecosystem. With rising temperatures worldwide, and especially in this region of the African continent, the dry season is becoming longer, often limiting rainfall to just a few weeks. With this, Kanga Pan could lose its status as a wildlife refuge, permanently affecting the ecosystem for hundreds of kilometers around. Without this perpetual wetland, thousands of mammals, reptiles, birds, and fish could find their lives in the middle of an arid savanna without a single drop of water. The good news is that this scenario is far from happening, and many local organizations have already taken steps to preserve this majestic ecosystem in the middle of the savanna. Some local camps, to ensure an adequate water supply in the wetland, even go so far as to pump significant quantities of the coveted liquid directly into the reservoir, allowing thirsty wilderness visitors to endure the hottest months of the year. The Kanga Pan is a living example that, with coordinated action, ecosystems can be preserved, even in the face of the most severe effects of climate change. Did you enjoy the wildlife stories about the Kanga Pan animal species? Why not give us a like to help us continue sharing these fantastic nature stories? If you're interested in keeping up with our documentaries, you can also click the notification bell so you don't miss our next videos. If you'd like to help more people learn about these animal species' fight against thirst, you can share the video with your friends. See you next time with more predators, large mammals, and above all, stories of wild lives.